What actually lived up to the hype it received? Touch screens, in the end. At the beginning it was seen as a nice gimmicky feature but unusable, like AR glasses at the moment. The internet. In the early days when it stopped being solely for universities and government, people, media, etc., was unsure what to make of it and how useful it would be. In terms of raw impact, without factoring in whether it evolved for good or bad, it overperformed expectations by orders of magnitude. As for whether it has become a social benefit or a liability, that's much less clear. The degree of achievement is no disappointment, but the direction? This thing was designed to be a decentralized self-publishing system for informed people acting in good faith. Instead, authoritarian governments and employers have more power than ever. Social media sold itself as offering influence to the average person. These days, what it seems to do is ratify the average person's lack of influence. The miniseries Chernobyl. Just watched it again last night for the umpteenth time. Chernobyl and Band of Brothers are dang near perfect. Hells yeah, good call. The original Dune book series was all my older brother talk about in high school, and can say that while incredibly dense they really probed deep into questions on humanity and how we organize our society. Highly recommend for all. Goddammit, I had the chance to buy it yesterday. Lionel Messi. Every time when an Argentine young player comes up he is hyped to be next Maradona. But many faded from halfway in their career. Messi was hyped way too much in that regard from the age of 17. Now almost at the end of his career, most of the football lovers and pundits consider him on par or above Maradona on footballing ability. Can remember reading an interview with Ronaldinho years ago when he said, "I'm not the best player in the world. I'm not even the best player at Barca." Wait until you see Messi, turns out he was spot on. The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64. The first 3D entries for legendary games, I'd say they lived up to the hype. I was a kid with a Nintendo Power subscription reading about Ocarina of Time for a year. There was no internet for me at this time. I made my mom drive to all the stores to buy it for Christmas and it was better than the hype. Very few things have been like this. Bioshock. I still remember all the great trailers set to Bobby Darin's Beyond the Sea and how cool the plasmids looked and the flooded Art Deco aesthetic. Then the game turned out to be even better than expected. Windows 95. I remember all the advertising and training classes at work. Turns out it had a lot of good features, including the start button. Oh my god, I just remembered my mum had books and books about Windows 95. Like she would come home from work and read through all these books and dictionaries preparing for it when her company switched from typewriters to computers. Seems wild to me now to actually read a manual for anything, but this was like she was studying for class. Fricking Heelys. I saw a kid rolling with them the other day. I'm 23 and all I could think about was how much cooler this 11-year-old was than me. I will always remember going to an to transfer a patient and seeing a young doctor go rolling by in Heelys while glancing down at a chart. One of the most surreal experiences I have ever had as an EMT. Life after high school. Was suicidal as a teen but fortunately listened to the advice of it gets better. Hot dang. It really does. Got out of my small town. Got to finally live life for a change outside that stifling, judgmental environment, and experience how living really does beat the alternative. Also, Avengers Endgame definitely lived up to the hype. I hope lots of teenagers see this. You may have saved a life today. Leaving my job. It turns out the grass often is greener, especially with the way many, if not most, corporations favor new hires over current employees. Gaining years of experience in jobs where it matters will objectively increase your value, yet it's super common to give employees tiny marginal raises that fall short of that increase in value. When it's time to look for a new job, companies actually have to be somewhat competitive and come a lot closer to offering your true value. This is part of the reason why so many positions hesitate to post the salary, and why company policies usually state that you can't discuss your salary, which is BS. They are deliberately trying to pay a chunk of their workforce less than they're worth. The Dark Knight. I remember the hype train being like no other movie I can remember. Wonderfully orchestrated media, really harnessed the internet in all the right ways. I started to think the movie was gonna be all hype and little substance. When the Joker put the pencil through that guy's head, it was all over for me. Within the first quarter of the movie, I was already declaring it the best superhero flick I ever saw at the time. I remember when people went like EWW when they heard Heath Ledger was gonna be Joker. Thanos. Ever since he was teased at the first Avengers movie, he was being made out to be the villain you didn't want to frick with. His underling cowering before him, Ronan wincing as we heard him speak for the first time. Thanos was teased at throughout the time frame, and was a build up for a grand finale. I would argue that Thanos not only met expectations, he exceeded them. Josh Brolin gives this portrayal of a villain convinced that he knows what is right for the entire cosmos. He has his personal reasons for why he wants to kill off half of everything in the universe. No monologues about describing his scheme. Just a simple plan of getting the Infinity Stones and knowing how to manipulate the Avengers into basically giving him what he wants. And it just freaking works. He has ungodly strength, yet he can frick with his opponent without even raising a finger. To this day, the Thanos snap still is being memed at. Honestly thought it was Ron Perlman for a while. Alas, they both have great chins. The iPod. Steve Jobs said it was going to revolutionize the way we listen to music, and it absolutely did. P.S. Do you remember when people were being mugged for their iPod because everyone knew you had one because of the white headphones? There were signs on subways. Headphones are a giveaway. Like, you are advertising what you have, be careful. Legend of Zelda. Breath of the Wild. The hype around it was sky high, and then it was actually better than we all thought. A modern masterpiece of gaming. Ted Lasso. My wife and I started it after everyone told us to watch it when season 2 ended. Both sides of parents, friends, social media, etc. We thought it cannot be that good. It's just too hyped. But no, it really is as amazing as everyone says. They really deserved all the Emmys they received. As someone who doesn't like Jason Sudeikis, he impressed the heck out of me playing Ted Lasso. I went back and watched some of the movies he was in and still don't like him, but man, Ted Lasso is amazing. Reading. I hated reading as a kid. I didn't get the hype. Then I found books I actually enjoy, and it changed my world. Writing also changed the world, or something. Socrates and a bunch of old fogies thought it was a bad idea at the time, that it would make us stupid. If only he knew the power of Google, social and mass misinformation. That idiot. But what was I saying? Oh look, a squirrel. LeBron James. He was hyped as the next Michael Jordan. ESPN was covering his high school games. It was said that if he didn't become a Hall of Famer, then he is a bust. Not only did he live up to the hype, he exceeded it. He became 1B to Jordan's 1A. Also, except for the decision and some China crap, he barely has any scandal, which is crazy during these social media times. Even the decision wasn't really a scandal, just overhyped and unnecessary. That was rightly laughed at the time and has been ever since. Arcane on Netflix, to name a recent one. Definitely any discovery in the deep sea. The moon landing. No questions asked. Yeah, Arcane was actually crazy good demo. It's one thing to make music videos, but something completely different to make a whole series with good writing and voice acting. The first Deadpool movie. I had high hopes for it going in, especially when I found out it would be a hard R. But it blew my expectations out of the water. I think it's the best Marvel movie that isn't in the MCU, and it's not even close. iPhone. I remember all the rumors about Apple developing a cell phone, and online renderings predicting something more like original iPod. I remember my Motorola flip phone falling apart and trying to get to the Apple announcement day in Jan, being absolutely blown away by what it actually was. Then learning it wasn't going to be released until June and using packing tape to keep my Motorola phone together until June. I waited in line on release day, only for them to sell out before my turn to buy. But the very next day, I got my hands on the first iPhone and it was amazing. Owning a puppy. It may be a lot of work, but my gods, it is adorable to see them grow up. I was so happy when my golden retriever puppy was house trained enough to be able to sleep in bed with me. Dead Space 2. The first was a good game, but there wasn't really news of a sequel for 5 years. The marketing was interesting, and most horror sequels flop, so it was fantastic how good the second was. Now we just wait for the remake. Dead Space 2's way of giving you lore and background stories to everything happening is the standard I hold games to now. Still my favorite. Bacon. I grew up Muslim and tried bacon for the first time in my life this year. I'm 23 and I put that crap on everything. Disney. I love that I never thought about the real world while we were there. Everything was planned and paid for in advance, so it was just show up and have fun. I've been to Disney about 4 or 5 times, the Paris one, and there's something magical to it every single time. I really thought I would hate Joker 2019 for many reasons. It would be predictable for me to like it. I can't stand the hype about the character and I'm totally bored of the topic genre. Every moron liked it, which normally diminishes my experience. Movies started sucking long ago, but I really did like it a lot. Just have to put in some love for Joaquin Phoenix. Dude nailed that part so well. A Song of Ice and Fire. I never watched Game of Thrones, but quite a few people told me the books were really good, so I started reading them and I was hooked pretty much right away. Squid Game. When I heard about it, I was like, oh sure, another popular Netflix show that everyone's raving about, which made me want to dislike it. First episode I was hooked and every bit of free time I had afterwards went into finishing it. It's kind of funny how when something gets popular but you didn't ride the immediate wave of popularity, your brain tries to make you dislike it. Episode 6 fricked me up. For me anyway, Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. Saw it 3 times in the theater, and many more times on home video. Loved it. I understand that others think the movie was a letdown, but at the time it blew me away, and changed the way I perceive Star Wars. This comment will probably be downvoted. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I heard that it was one of, if not the best game in the series, and my god, they were right. Iron Man 2008. Alright, a movie made by Marvel. How bad could it be? The best part of Iron Man is that it was made to be a great movie first, and the setup for a franchise second. So many movies since have their entire franchise planned out and end up making a movie that doesn't stand alone and is mostly setting up the franchise that will likely get shelved because the movie flops. Dark Universe a cow. Iron Man sprinkled those things in. Coulson popping up here and there, dropping the SHIELD name at the end, and of course Fury's post-credit. But take those out and the movie is barely affected. Once it succeeded and they could guarantee more films, even if an individual one flopped, then they could be more liberal with the setups, but their realization that they needed to get this one right first is why Marvel is where it is. The Lord of the Rings Triology. I've such a clear memory coming out of the theater after watching Fellowship, feeling like I had been on epic quest and witnessed something truly beautiful, both energized and stunned. The energy of the whole crowd seemed kinda united by the experience. My girlfriend and I went with 2 other couples, one couple both tall, slim, angular, and fair. The other included a short, hairy, thick dude. So it was like I got to continue the night with the elves and dwarfs. Doom. Rip and tear. Doom 2016 was such a lovely surprise. I loved the original Doom and Doom 2. I was pumped for Doom 3, but unfortunately it just didn't feel like Doom. Doom 2016 comes out and in the very first 10 seconds you got enemies coming at you and you don't have weapons. Then you get to the first open area and try duck and cover strategies and soon realize that doesn't work in Doom 2016. The idea that the game wants you to charge into battle and keep moving was amazing and really helped bring the game into the 21st century. Parasite. See it if you haven't. Just recommended this to a friend. That reveal is so mind-blowing and the way it perfectly weaves into the story was impossible to look away after that point. The bloody tissue scene was fantastic too. The editing and the music was absolutely perfect. I wanna see it again soon. I'd love to see it for the first time again. World of Warcraft. Not so much now, but dang, 2006 to 2010 was a great time. I hadn't played video games since Atari 2600 and my buddy moved away and said we could play this together. I upgraded my PC to play. This was vanilla, and was blown away. I remember going, wait, all these other characters are people? Like other people are playing these characters? I would sit in Orgrimmar and just marvel. Every time I did a dungeon I'd ask where people were and couldn't get over the fact that a dude in England was healing me. Never quite had that experience again with a game. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.